What's happening, Spider Friends? Welcome back to Spider-Man on PS4 with the new update, Arachnid Rider, which is based on Kamen Rider.
Awesome!
So yeah, it's kind of interesting that they have a Kamen Rider suit, though, because Kamen Rider was never really successful in America. Both Kamen Rider shows failed. Kamen Rider, the 90s show, based on the Power Rangers thing, and then, of course, you had Kamen Rider, I think, Dragon Knight or something it was called.
Oh, wow.
It was Knight Rider in America, but this suit is based on one of the people at Insomniac's love for Kamen Rider, and I'm totally down with that. It has no comic book origin whatsoever. You could say it's kind of inspired by the Japanese Spiderman from the 70s, but not really.
Okay.
If you look very closely at Arachnid Rider, and we're going to get a close-up here so you guys can see, just like the old 80s and 90s Kamen Riders, it has a very bug-like appearance. So it looks beautiful. This is probably one of my favorite-looking suits. Now, this is part of the free update for the 3 suits that you got for Spider-Man Remastered on PS5, and thanks to Insomniac's Thanksgiving goodness, they have given players the ability to use this suit in their PS4 version of the game just by updating, which is going to bring your total of Spider-Man close to 80 gig now, right around the size of Arkham Knight. After Arkham Knight's last update put it at about 86 gig.
Whoa.
So Spider-Man now is about 81 or 82 gigabytes.
I like how you change it to nighttime so we can...
Yeah, Kamen Riders are pretty active at night.
Yeah,
so.
we can leap into action and save the day at night.
Yep.
I mean, save the night.
Henshin.
Henshin. Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome.
The only thing that looks kind of weird is I thought Kamen Rider was supposed to have kind of a motorcycle helmet, or maybe no. It's more like a bug helmet.
This one has like more of a bug-inspired helmet. So it could be kind of based on the recent era of Kamen Rider, like where they look more kind of like in the 2000s. They kind of incorporated like a little bit more bug-like looks to them.
He's so shiny.
He kind of looks like Kamen Rider Hibiki a little bit, which is not one of my favorite riders, but I can definitely see the influence there. Japan is actually pretty excited about this update. I think it's a great tribute to their style of superheroes.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it's their superheroes in an American superhero game. Because in Japan, Kamen Riders are superheroes.
That's right. In Japan, Kamen Rider and Super Sentai, along with Metal Heroes and other... I can never say it right. Totsu... I can never pronounce it right, but...
Yeah, I'm not very good at pronouncing
it's that genre of live-action superhero stuff that's been going on since the 1970s.
Those are like superhero. Those are the same as superheroes here in the States, basically.
And they've been going on since the 1970s.
And like Ultraman and stuff like that.
Yep.
Obviously.
I'm a huge fan of Kamen Rider more than Super Sentai, so I really enjoyed Kamen Rider Black because I got to see some episodes a long time ago in New York that were, they weren't subtitled.
Yeah.
But they were playing on Japanese stations in New York City.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and if you guys don't really know much about Kamen Rider, it's just so huge in Japan. Like, they even have little stage shows for younglings, and like it's just like all over the place. Imagine how they have, places to meet Spider-Man here. Well, they have things like that where you can meet Kamen Riders and stuff like that, and shopping malls and stuff everywhere. It's just like, it basically, exactly what you said, Luke. They are the superheroes of Japan, basically.
Yep, but unlike Super Sentai, the Kamen Rider actually had a snafu. Even though they took place before Super Sentai, they actually got canceled for a time. Like, Kamen Rider technically was canceled after Kamen Rider Black RX.
Oh, wow.
And the final special that brought back a lot of the actually brought back all the riders from the 1970s and 80s to work with the Kamen Rider Black guy. And then from there on out, in the 90s, Kamen Rider only kind of appeared as soft reboots in the movies. And then you had Kamen Rider come back in 2000, and it's been a constant on Japanese television ever since.
Yeah, like what kind of got me into Kamen Rider was Luke showed me Kamen Rider Drive. That was a 2000 something show, and
I want to say it was 2012, maybe.
Oh, okay, there you go. And
I think so.
Like, it was just great because if you would watch old Kamen Rider Black shows, very, very serious and very like a lot on the line, very like suspenseful, and it's like an action show. So not a lot of humor, but what I really liked about Kamen Rider Drive is it's a great like introducing of Kamen Rider, like because it has both. It has the kind of humor, but also very action oriented show. So I feel like it's a really good show to start out with if you have never seen Kamen Rider.
It was also a great little tribute to people that were fans of Kamen Rider Black, because Black did show up in that show and movie, I believe,
yeah.
because Drive is a Kamen Rider that uses a car just like Black did. Black also had a motorcycle, but his last series, Kamen Rider Black RX, he had a car that was red, coincidentally.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. So then they had the red car in Kamen Rider Drive. Kind of like to think about that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So yeah, if you guys don't know, Kamen Rider Black was like the most famous Kamen Rider ever. Like he was like the James Bond of Kamen Rider. Like
even though he wasn't the first.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Kamen Rider Black was not the first, but he is definitely the most popular because he was the first Kamen Rider to have other transformations. He had Bio Rider, he had, let's see if I can remember them so long ago. I believe Bio was the robot, he had his Kamen Rider Black, and then he had like a might have been Robo Rider, I don't remember.
Well, I feel like Spider-Man is the perfect superhero to show off Kamen Rider because Kamen Riders are like bug heroes.
Yep.
So, yeah, Spider-Man knows what that is all about.
He knows what it's like to be a bug hero.
Yep.
But yeah, everybody is so pumped about the whole Kamen Rider thing because, you know, they weren't expecting it. And it's becoming one of the most popular suits. It also has kind of like an animated look to it, but it also has that armored feel. Like, this is what Japan would think when they think Spider-Man is a Kamen Rider.
Yeah. So. I mean, it doesn't look like a Spider-Man suit. Like, even if you looked at this, you would not think, like, oh my gosh, this is Spider-Man. Like, it is the same, like, red as Spider-Man, like, but this does not look like Spider-Man. It definitely looks like Kamen Rider. And he's got the boots going on. He has the eyes that actually look like he is a bug. And, like, I don't know if it's true or not, but I know that when, like, Kamen Rider Black and some of the other Kamen Riders would transform, you would see smoke and the person's eyes would be full of pain and like that they're suffering as they're transforming, like henshin, and then they're literally going through it. Almost as like they're transforming into a bug person with superpowers. Their DNA is transforming almost. So it's so cool. Like Spider-Man actually had the same thing happen to him in a way because he actually transformed, like, but forever he never transforms back because Spider-Man is always a bug person.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I just remembered. Robo Rider was the kind of like yellow and black form for Kamen Rider Black RX, and then I did get the other one right, Bio Rider. So,
okay.
And I actually have these figures somewhere. I don't know where they really are, but
cool.
I think we got the date wrong for Kamen Rider Drive. I think Decade was like 2010, 2012, and then Drive would have been a little bit later.
Oh yeah, Decade was great too. Going through all the different timelines and getting other Kamen Riders, I think.
Yeah, because we saw Kamen Rider Drive in 2015. It debuted in 2014 in Japan.
And we've actually seen a lot of the Kamen Rider shows because we did a Kamen Rider game and
done a couple Kamen Rider games.
Got, several Kamen Rider games, and I remember when we first, or the first one I really was helping a lot on, Luke and I were going through every Kamen Rider series and kind of watching a little bit of it. Luke had already watched a lot of it, but, I was trying to get an idea of different ones. And I remember watching, oh my gosh, I can't even remember the Kamen Rider one that I remember I watched. Kiva, yeah, one was like, well, he has a violin. I play violin, but he was like the vampire one.
Yep.
And I liked Kamen Rider. I thought was Fives the one that was like really happy-go-lucky?
Nope.
Or...
Fives was a very serious show. You're
never
thinking
mind.
you're thinking Forza.
Forza, yeah. I always get they both start with F, so I got them confused. Yeah, so I like Forza because he's always trying to make friends, and I like all of them honestly, but Drive really got me into it. So yeah. Yeah, Kamen Rider is very exciting to watch, honestly, because, you know, Luke and I tried to watch Sentai. Luke loves Sentai, but when I watched Kamen Rider, I thought, wow, this is really interesting, because you've got motorcycles, you're leaping in to save the day, you know, out of nowhere, and they just have, like, superpowers. They're just amazing, and they're so cool. It's like James Bond with superpowers.
One Kamen Rider equals a team of Super Sentai. That's what was so cool about Kamen Rider for me, is instead of a whole team taking down a monster, you have this one guy who leaps off a motorcycle, rider punches or rider kicks somebody into oblivion, and then rides off into the sunset like a masked hero. You know, that to me is cool. Whereas Super Sentai is about a team working together that may or may not have superpowers. A Kamen Rider is a person that transforms, henshins, and is able to use their special abilities to sometimes help people, but sometimes they're bad Kamen Riders too. It all depends.
Yeah, they can become evil.
Sometimes the secondary rider of the show can be like another form of an antagonist for the main rider.
Yeah, I really like that Kamen Riders, a lot of them are kind of loners. They come out of nowhere and, you know, they kind of ride back off into the distance, and it's just so heroic. It's really cool. So yeah, it's so exciting to watch.
Oops. Need to use electric powers. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry guys. I'm still trying to remember how to play this version, so it's kind of like
it's alright. I remember I think when we were watching Decade, we got to see a lot of the different Kamen Riders.
Yeah, it was a celebration show. There was another Kamen Rider show that came out a couple years ago. I believe the 2020 Kamen Rider is kind of like a celebration show too. Like every 10 years they have kind of a little celebration.
Well, I mean, with the Kamen Rider and Sentai in Japan, they do such a great job of basically like remembering past actors in different shows and bringing them back for cameos or bringing them back for appearances in other shows, and they don't really do a very good job of that here in the States. Like,
well, they did bring back Jason for Power Rangers Beast Morphers.
Yeah,
but they did not really bring back the actors of Power Rangers Dino Thunder. They just had guys in suits pretending to be the Dino Thunder cast, which was a huge missed opportunity.
Like in Sentai and Kamen Rider, though, don't they bring in like whole teams and do like team-up movies and stuff?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome, actually. Because it kind of shows their powers are so relevant after this whole time. Like, they never, you know, quite retired. Once a Kamen Rider or Sentai Ranger, you're always one.
Yeah.
You can always be called on. Oh, he waved, yay.
Yeah, you can interact and wave and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just remember first seeing this game, and just every little storefront and stuff was just amazing. There's so much detail in every single thing. It's just unbelievable that they went through and like would actually make that a mobile store and put the details into it. It's unbelievable to me.
Arachnid Rider needed to be added into Marvel Comics now. we need Arachnid Rider.
That would be great, because I mean, that would be amazing. Because he's already henshined into a spider. I mean, honestly, there's so much you could do with that. I mean, I wonder if you actually made an Arachnid Rider in comics, if he would actually morph back and forth between a human and a spider person, or he would just permanently henshin and transform. So, I don't know.
I mean, they could also, well, no.
Or...
well, here's the thing. Was the original Spiderman series in Japan, asking fans of the toku genre, was Spider-Man supposed to be Super Sentai, or was he a Kamen Rider? I know he had his own Megazord. So, I mean, Kamen Riders don't tend to have Megazords, but was he supposed to be, like, a Sentai character, or is he just, like, a combination of the two? Because I could see this guy being Spider-Man, the Emissary of Hell, which was Spider-Man's catchphrase in Japan for whatever reason. You know, I think it would work better for this look because he does kind of look intimidating. He doesn't look like someone you would want to mess around with, you know?
Yeah, he definitely, and he has a lot of red, and then red eyes.
There's a lot of red, and he just, I don't know, he looks really cool.
Yeah.
He looks like more like a modern Kamen Rider, though, not so much like old school, you know, Kamen Rider Black or the 70s
Because I felt like the older ones kind of looked like they were wearing almost like a motorcycle helmet.
Well, they were.
And then it was like a bug.
The suits,
like a bug.
the suits transformed by Kamen Rider Black, and then you got to see. You definitely, by the time the 2000s rolled around, you saw where the influence of the new suit designs came from. It was reminiscent to a combination of different Black RX suits, whether it's Robo Rider, Bio Rider, or Black RX. So it was half like bug-like, and then over the course of the show, as the 2000s went on, the Kamen Rider suits became looking much more different. They didn't really appear like insects anymore. They could be anything, which was cool.
Oh, okay, because Kamen Rider Drive didn't really look like an insect necessarily.
He looked like kind of a transformer or a car or something like that, because he would have the tire on the side of his armor. Yeah,
I feel like if I would make a Kamen Rider Spider-Man, like if I would write his story, I would have him have spider DNA and human DNA like Peter Parker, like, you know, like any other Spider-Man. But I think I would make him actually really transform into a bug or something, like to get his real spider powers, like Henshin, before he like actually like fights a really bad guy or something.
Okay, let's see if Arachnid Rider can do this. No one else has been able to. Yes!
Awesome.
Go Arachnid Rider.
Awesome. That's because he used the power of
Arachnid Rider.
Pain.
Here comes Arachnid Rider into the night to kick bad guy butt. Ha! Arachnid Rider!
Yeah.
Beware, villains, for Arachnid Rider is here to fight! Aha! Henshin, he cries into the night as he rides his motorcycle. It's Arachnid Rider! Yeah, that's kind of what the 70s style, you know, Kamen Rider songs
awesome.
were. Thank you.
I like it. I really wanted to do something like that, but I didn't know. I couldn't remember enough of how they sounded.
Well, that would be like the 70s. Kamen Rider Black RX like had kind of like a ballad, which I never just understood. Why did he have like a very, his show was super serious, but they give him kind of like a ballad intro. Like, you know, it was just kind of weird.
I don't know.
There was a Super Sentai show that did that too. They had like, it was a very serious show, and it had like kind of a campy, soft kind of intro to it.
Oh, wow.
But the show was incredibly dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why, but when you were singing that, I just remembered when, I don't know if we were watching Sentai, like, bloopers or Kamen Rider ones with the guy who landed. I don't know if he landed, he smashed his knee onto the stage.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then he like slowly crawled away in pain.
That was a Super Sentai stunt, man. So what Amber's talking about is in the toku genre, outside of television, they have meet and greets that are like stage shows, and they do the stage shows, and then they have the autographs, and it may or may not really be the real actor of the show who's signing the autographs. It could be someone just in the suit, but it looks like that character is, you know, alive and not just on TV. They're interacting with people. So one of these Super Sentai stage shows a couple years ago, this one actor was supposed to come in and flip and like kick off a bad guy and then land and walk away or look damaged. And what happened was he kicked the bad guy, and then he didn't stick the landing, and he landed on his back. So he's crawling away on stage trying to act like everything's okay, but he could barely get off the stage. And it was just kind of funny.
I thought they showed a clip of him later where he was just like in so much pain, like he was just like...
Oh, they had somebody switch suits. It wasn't him, it was somebody else at that point.
I felt so bad because that's like...
Arachnid Rider.
Anything can happen, I guess, in those stage
Henshin.
shows.
Hooah!
I guess it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to compare those stage shows to like mall Santas, but it kind of feels like that. It feels like everybody has to kind of meet their favorite Kamen Rider. So the only way to do that is, to have, like different people as Kamen Rider do those stage shows all the time, so the little younglings can meet them and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Speaking of Kamen Rider, there will be some fun live streams. In December is when I'm expected to get my new Switch English version of the latest Kamen Rider game. Apparently, they're not going to be able to ship the game until after Thanksgiving in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
And people are like, hey, why don't you just get the digital version? Because the digital version won't be in English. Like, in Hong Kong, they actually make the games in English. Which is weird. Why can't... Well, I mean, there's not really a big Toku presence for Kamen Rider over here yet. I mean, there's a fan base, but the only way you can really watch Kamen Rider is kind of illegal. Unless you really want to watch the older shows, which are legally licensed in America now. There's a couple 70s Kamen Rider shows that you can watch on either some type of like streaming cable service or something like that. Yeah. And our friend Toku Chris is actually somewhat connected to some of that stuff, but it's going to be a long time before you see like licensed copies of Kamen Rider Drive or Decade or some of those other shows like translated in English, which they have been fan translated, and the fan translations are actually really good, but most Kamen Rider stuff up to date you can't really watch in English without shady means, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is weird because like a lot of, I would say most people in Japan actually speak English also, but at the same time, like, Hong Kong is very, honestly, Britain and China used to kind of share it for a while, until 2007, like, it went back to China, so.
Yeah. My hope is, as Toku gets, more people watching it in America, then... Because they release a lot of video games for Kamen Rider and other things. My hope for the future is that what they'll do is eventually, instead of having to go through sites like PlayAsia, which I love, and some others where they distribute English games of this stuff, like America will actually have an audience for a lot of this Kamen Rider stuff, and we'll get the actual English translations of a lot of Kamen Rider games and Kamen Rider shows, without having to go through things that aren't really 100% legal.
Yeah, I feel like if a lot of Americans actually knew the amount of awesome content that's made, like with superheroes in Japan, I think it would just like blow their mind. Like they would just have years worth of more content to watch to keep themselves entertained, because it's just like just when I discovered like like you knew that I love sci-fi, so you showed me like Gundam and all this other stuff that was going on in Japan, and I was like, whoa. So basically what you're saying is like, I had liked Star Wars before that, and then when I saw Gundam I was like, this story is actually more entertaining than Star Wars, and it's an animated story. Like, this is so unbelievable. They have this much creativity going on in Japan of all these superheroes and everything, that it's like, I really think that it would, most Americans that are not aware of it, it would blow their mind if they actually if it was translated. They would be like, wait, this has been around this whole time? I'm living under this rock because I don't speak Japanese. Kind of, basically. Yep.
I enjoy that so much. Oh, he's okay. What other things do we have? What does this do? Oh!
Just make sure they don't have small knives.
No, that was the other guy.
Oh, yeah.
Arachnid Rider! Hooah!
Arachnid Rider!
Yeah, that was good times.
Yeah.
Whee! And again, if you guys are trying to play at night in this game, all you have to do is go to Harry Osborn's little tech bases, and you can do that.
Cool.
Yeah, super fun.
I want that would be the best thing ever. It's great to have a theme song written about you. Not just like a musical theme song, but one with actual lyrics about all the cool stuff you do. You know, like he takes on bad guys at night and stands for justice, Arachnid Rider.
Yeah,
That's not very good, but I mean,
no,
I'm just letting you guys know, like
parkour.
that was making one up on the spot. Maybe give me a few more years to create a better song.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So
Good times.
This is cool. I mean, I wasn't even aware this was happening. This is awesome. Like, oh my gosh, Luke, I can see you playing many hours with this Arachnid Rider.
Oh, I would play the entire game over and just like spoof Kamen Rider stuff. Because, you know, when they would in Hong Kong, they actually used to dub Kamen Rider in English.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was something to watch. It was pretty bad. It was like you remember those 70s like kung fu movies that I make fun of because the dub is like waha blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You dare to fight me? Well, I will defeat you. No, you won't, because I am the master. Ha ha ha. You know, things like that. So they in English they dubbed Kamen Rider like that. In Hong Kong, ooh-wee. So you had things like Kamen Rider Kabuto and things, some very serious shows that were dubbed in Hong Kong. And
wow.
Even Kamen Rider Drive they did. I'm Kamen Rider Drive. Prepare to face justice. You know, it's just...
Wait, that's not how they sound.
I know, it was just kind of like, no. But they did that. So, I mean... It's interesting.
It's weird that a lot of like dubbing, they don't really get the
dubbing. Yeah, dubbing is dumb.
They don't get the expression and like the way that they're saying it down correctly.
Yeah, I especially like when sometimes they interject like comedy into Kamen Rider and stuff like that. So for some of the English dubs, like when they were doing something comedic, we kind of like or and then oh no, I burnt the cookies. You know, just things like that, and it's like why? Whereas you know you watch it on in Japanese and they're kind of like you know, and it's funny because you know that they made a mistake or something like that. But
oops,
when they add these like cartoon sound effects and stuff to the English dubs, it's like oh no, please
it makes it like
stop.
It's an Adam West show.
Stop doing that.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Nobody.
Yeah,
wants
because when you actually watch it, like the Kamen Rider Drive and other things like that in Japanese, like they're just
they have a perfect
cool.
balance of comedy and action, and it works. But
it feels like you're watching a really cool action show, basically.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I think they've stopped Hong Kong dubs completely for Kamen Rider. I don't know though. The last one I heard that they did a dub of that I didn't even know existed was Kamen Rider EX Aid, which is the one where it's basically inspired by video games. So the Kamen Riders have powers based on like 80s and 90s video games, and they're doctors saving the world. And it's actually really good, but I don't suggest watching the dub of it. The dub is like super silly. And it wasn't supposed to be because it was a semi-serious show. Here's the thing, even though Kamen Rider EX Aid, like they had suits that were a little comedic looking, it was a semi-serious show with like serious arcs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when Hong Kong got a hold of it and they did an English dub of it, not so much. It wasn't quite what it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what. I mean, even like there were a lot of people in America that did really bad dubs of anime and stuff like that a long time ago. Like,
yeah, they still do. They're called Funimation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, even some of that, it doesn't have the same. Well, yeah, exactly.
They're not as bad as Hong Kong dubs.
Yeah, they're not. But some of them don't even have the same like. It doesn't have the same way they were originally saying it. Like you do lose a lot in translation of the dubs and stuff. But yeah, like it's so weird. Maybe I just feel like it's better than nothing. I guess if you were English speaker living in Hong Kong back in the 70s, you'd be thankful for the dub.
They didn't dub until the 90s.
Oh, okay. All right. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Well, still in the 90s, I guess. But
yeah, look up, if you guys want to see something hilarious, look up Kamen Rider dubs Hong Kong and have fun. I was introduced to the Kamen Rider dubs by my friend Yuri of the Wind. who's a huge Kamen Rider fan. He's probably bigger than I am, because he watches every season no matter what. I've only seen, of the modern Kamen Rider shows, in the last like 4 years, I've probably seen like 2 or 3 of the new shows, but I haven't finished them. I haven't even finished EX-Aid. Or the one, Kamen Rider Build was the last one I started, but I didn't finish. Because everybody said I was getting the names wrong when I was doing live streams of it, so...
Oh,
yeah.
Sadness.
That's okay.
Hey, you guys, you know Luke doesn't even get the names right of some stuff that's here in America.
Not helping, Amber. Not helping.
But yeah, this is a really, really cool skin. I'm gonna have to look at what modern Kamen Riders look like, because you were saying this looks almost like a modern Kamen Rider, because...
It's got some influence of the 1970s, a little bit of the bug-like motif, but at the same time, it has that... Oh, this is the Empire State Building.
I like how it also keeps the suit, though. Like, you can tell this was a Spiderman Kamen Rider. Like, you can see his suit is still there. Like, they didn't completely just make a Kamen Rider that was blue or red. Like, he's definitely Spider-Man Kamen Rider.
Yep, he's definitely Spider-Man.
So they did a great job on the suit. Now I need to read the comic of this and watch the show.
There's no comic.
I know, but I'm saying they need to make one.
Wait, I thought I could get on the top of that. I guess not.
I don't know.
It's okay. You're gonna show up? Wow, there he is. He looks really cool.
Ooh.
There we go. All right, guys, that is going to do it for Arachnid Rider.
Yeah. Arachnid Rider, yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching. That is the last of our Spider-Man coverage for 2018, which stretched into 2020, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I love this suit. I think it's fantastic. This is a free update. Make sure you add this to your PS4. Or if you're going to do the remastered edition, let us know if you're going to do that. I am eventually going to upgrade to PS5 remastered for Spider-Man, but I want to wait until that, thing is addressed, because I'm sure PlayStation Studios will fix that ASAP, or otherwise that's going to present a lot of problems. Bricking systems is never good. But stay tuned. We have a couple Miles Morales videos that I believe that have not aired yet, such as our Spider Lore on the End suit, which is kind of short, but also a fun little video on the Crimson Spider Cowl, so be on the lookout for that. Our Hyrule Warriors series is still going on, and I believe we've started to post our new Let's Play of Rice and Ruin, so be on the lookout for that. And we've got an awesome live stream later tonight on something at 8 o'clock, so come back for that, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks so much for watching K-Wings Let's Plays, and Arachnid Rider Henshin! God bless and happy gaming!
See ya!